Hey guys, this is Solution Podfic, and today we're going to be reading Who's Old Now by Lou Biswavi. This is Chapter 9. Black and White. White and black. So similar yet so different. Opposing worldviews, but without the other the world couldn't exist as it did. Yin and yang. An eternal balance that spun around and around until the heat death of the universe. But wasn't that its own balance? A big bang and then billions of years later a big crush as it all collapses. Back to which to choose. Black on black? Black on white? White on black? Could there even be a choice? Or was it just choosing the colors of today before plunging back into the unknown murky waters of every other day of his life? Jason shook his head. As much fun as it was to monologue safely within the confines of his own mind, he was still on a deadline. Now, white shirt or black shirt? With the black pants and jacket already, the white might be a good break to the same colors. It would match well with his red tie and his helmet too. But then again, he could say the same for the black. White and black were base colors, they could go with any accent. Now in terms of practicality in the face of bloodshed, both of those had their pros and cons. Okay, maybe Jason didn't have to labor over his clothing choices as much. He was the goddamn Red Hood. People judged him at the peril of their own kneecaps. But it was also about sending a message. He couldn't appear anything less than professional at his own semi-annual Board of Goonian Review, as they like to call it. Jason didn't exactly give up his crime lord status once the green of the Lazarus pit had receded. No fucking way. He spent way too much time and effort on it. Was there a sharp decline in the number of heads and duffel bags to zero? Yes, absolutely. But was there good he could do with his status? Also yes. Staying on top was a good way to protect people. Having his own agenda and group meant he could curb the effects of criminals that he might not have reached before. There were good people who did bad things because there was nowhere else to go. He could provide a place to go, a job to have that wasn't too far out of their comfort zone, and be a place where people could find their feet in a non-caring city. Ergo, crime lord. It was also very efficient for making a living. No living legal identity, for now, made it hard to get a job. So he made his own job. Being a crime lord was difficult, yes, but it was plenty fulfilling in its own ways. Now, black shirt had its pros. It was less likely to show blood in case of a fight, but he couldn't exactly bleach it. White, of course, he could dunk in a vat of bleach or vinegar. Not both at the same time. If he was going to make chlorine gas, it would be on purpose, thank you very much, with reckless abandon. The blood would be very evident in the moment, however, which had its own bonuses in the name of intimidation. Why did this have to be so complicated? He could roll up in full hood outfit and none of the beloved minions would judge him, but he would judge himself. So, black on black, black on white, white on black. Jason was about a minute away from giving up and choosing via eeny, meeny, miny, mo, when a brilliant green portal tore open in his living room. Given Danny's predisposition for popping in, Jason wasn't worried. He'd have to tell Danny to buzz off, though. There was only a short period of time considered fashionably late to your own function. Ugh, so Bruce did teach him something besides vigilantism. Gross. Danny stuck his head through in phantom form, eyes blazing a ferocious green, a barely seen crown spinning agitatedly over his head. You. I need you to keep an eye on Billy. Jason blinked. Danny seemed very ruffled. I kind of have my own thing going on soon. Does he really need a babysitter? For my own peace of mind and so I don't bite someone's head off, yes. There's a trial and Tuck is there as a reincarnation of Dulaman, and Sam's in the zone dealing with Overgrowth's garden with Jazz, and Ellie's in the Mariana Trench with Con, so I can't get in touch with her, and... Danny paused, took a deep, and while in phantom form, entirely unnecessary, breath. Please. For my own peace of mind, I know it's your board of review today, but I couldn't think of anywhere safer with people I trust. Jason sniffed. Because there was dust in his eyes, he was not touched by the show of trust by someone he considered a big brother. No, absolutely not. Yeah, I got him. If any of the guys tried to mess with him, they shouldn't have been part of my gang anyways. Danny smiled, seemingly entirely tired and relieved. Thank you so much. Now I gotta go, love you, see you later, B, goodbye. Billy came popping out of the portal, and Danny vanished as quickly as he had spoken his farewell. Portal in Jason's living room closed like it was never there, sans one vaguely ruffled 12-year-old. Billy didn't get coddled often, nor babysat as far as Jason knew. The kid was far too independent, and Danny too respectful of Billy's autonomy to try to infringe on that. The Danny asked for supervision in the first place, and Billy went along with it? Yeah, some shit was up. But that wasn't Jason's concern. No. Jason only had one pressing thing at the moment. So kid, black shirt or white shirt? Sean liked to think he was your average Gothamite, by which he meant his entire life was, to any outsider, so goddamn weird. Started out fine, went to school, got shoved into lockers, practiced active shooter drills with all the other kindergartners, pickpocketed his siblings for fun, the usual. He even went to college. Didn't graduate, of course. What crazy Gothamite would actually be able to graduate college? Given how many rogues had PhDs, Sean was probably correct on that. And then life got weirder. Bat Cryptid? Fine. Mothman reboot? Whatever. Bat Cryptid purposely has a small child dressed like a traffic light. Bat Cryptid is real? And fist fight with a famous lawyer, a doctor of chemistry, medicine, and psychology too. Eco-terrorism, but now with extra biological warfare. And then there were more, crawling out of the woodwork, vigilante and roguelike. Like, all they needed was one to start the avalanche. Sean did what any good Gothamite should do, and rolled with the punches. With the emergence of new criminal elements, the new job pool opened, and well, insulin doesn't pay for itself. Sean loved his family, he loved his siblings, he would do anything for them. Anything. Sean did a lot of things he wasn't proud of, but he tried to work for bosses he agreed with, or at least didn't hate. Cobblepot worked for a while, but then the bats busted in too often, and Sean couldn't afford to get arrested. Poison Ivy worked for a while, but the problem with being an eco-terrorist engaging in biological warfare was you got exposed to all the nasty stuff. And well, Sean couldn't afford to get sick either. And then there was a new boss hanging around, right in Crime Alley. He would have taken a job with Red Hood only for the shortened commute. But the Red Hood said don't fuck with kids. The Hood said don't mess with the girls and the guys working on the street corners. And the Red Hood delivered. The Red Hood was working up to build a criminal empire, and every empire needs someone to work the spreadsheets. Sean didn't finish getting a degree as a business analyst, but by God was he going to use the skills he had learned. And it was fine, great even. The boss was understanding, paid days off to take care of the family, and didn't act like he knew better than Sean at the job he was hired for. Sean ignored the emotional instability and mild amounts of murder, couldn't swing a rat by the tail without hitting a killer in Gotham, and any crime boss in Gotham couldn't claim to be emotionally or mentally stable. Hood killed rapists, pedophiles, and sick fucks that no one worthwhile would be sad to see go. Sean was fairly content making spreadsheets for weapon deals and keeping inventory of their bases, and what they had in them. And then the Red Hood had to ruin it all by taking off the goddamn hood, because he was a fucking kid. Built like a tank, yes. Extremely competent with weapons and a dead shot with a gun? Absolutely. Scruffy on the chin with nicks that showed an experience with a razor? Yes. Sean was older than the boss by a mile. He knew. Oh, Sean knew what the city did to kids. Everyone grew up too quick, everyone carried a pocket knife and sharp eyes, and kids weren't exempt. But fuck. Sean could see his little brother in the scruffy black hair that spoke of needing an actual haircut. He could see his angel in the stubborn teenage pride in the set of Hood's jaw and the way he scowled like the world personally offended him. Sean tried not to change his behavior in regard to his boss, but well, after the second time he reflexively chided Hood on his language in a meeting, he had to come clean. Hood was understanding if not a tiny bit offended in the way that all overly independent teenagers were, so Sean apparently couldn't stop his big brother instincts. Fine then. He channeled them in a different way. Sean packed an extra lunch every day, because his boss was a teenage tank and obviously needed a high caloric intake. Sean carried a bottle of over-the-counter Advil. Because he wouldn't doubt a crime boss / vigilante having chronic pain from injuries of some kind. And Hood obviously knew what Sean was doing. The moments of blank staring from a deadpan helmet made it clear. But Hood put up with it, and Sean continued to pack an extra lunch, and Sean had a good stable job that he could on some level be proud of. Proud of his boss and the work he did, and the good that came of it for Crime Alley. Sean had to remind himself of all the things so he couldn't lose his mind the instant Hood came through the door for the meeting. A small child, in identical suit and tie trailing behind him. What you got there, boss? Pedro, one of the heads of acquisitions, asked. Hood held up his hand, showing off the Maze coffee shop cup he held. A latte, Hood replied, striding to the head of the table, grabbing a spare chair along the way. The kid trailed behind Hood, face covered by a comically oversized red Hood helmet, holding a smaller to-go cup in their hand. Hood sat down and pulled the chair he grabbed to his side. The kid hopped up to sit right beside the Red Hood, crime lord extraordinaire. The kid pulled off the helmet, showing a young face with black hair and blue eyes. He sipped whatever he held in the cup and made direct eye contact with Sean. Was it too late to ask for a raise? Boss, if you say this is your sidekick, I will be morally required to kick you in the balls, Mackenzie said bluntly, staring at the small child with what looked like a hot chocolate mustache from their to-go cup. If I got a child sidekick, I'd ask you to kick me in the balls. Nah, I'm just watching him as a favor. Now let's get to it. Just because I'm babysitting doesn't mean we don't have shit to get to. Let's start with Sam. What do you got for me? And just like that, Sean fell back into the flow of a meeting, forgetting the kid for a time as he listened to Sam and what he got from the suggestion box. Hey, if it works, it works. Mackenzie's budgeting for the semester. Rather good. They might be able to up the amount of hours the soup kitchen was open. And eventually what Sean had to say on the overall organization side of things. Since you made whatever truce you have with the bats, we've lost less safe houses. Not to say the bats don't know about them, I'm not stupid, but they're no longer considered a compromisation to the organization. Hood nodded. Yeah, they definitely have all the places bugged, he sighed almost fondly. Batman knows a lot of things, the kid spoke up, but he sure don't know everything. Yep, it's Red Robin you gotta watch out for, Pedro replied. He's a scary little fudger. Pedro cringed at his lame attempt to censor himself. Sean snorted and studiously avoided the glare Pedro aimed at him. The meeting continued without any more derailments except for when Hood handed the kid a Lunchable, when they all had their lunch break. And with that, I think we're good. Any last comments? Hood asked, hours after the lunch break. Sean hoped no one else would say shit. He was so fucking tired. Whether you were talking about quarterly revenue for a legitimate business or a crime syndicate, it was all equally boring after the first 5 hours. Alright then, you have your tasks, we have a plan. Go forth, my minions, out into the world. Away with you, for familiarity breeds contempt. Sean shook his head at his boss's antics as the room quickly vacated with amused laughter. Sean stood up and cracked his back. He was in his late 20s, but he was already too old for this. He sighed and grabbed his bag, giving a quick check for the rest of the room in case someone forgot something. Table looked clean. The only people left in the room were Hood, the kid, himself, and for some reason Camilla from PR. Camilla, is there an issue? Hood asked. No, it's just... Kid, you wouldn't happen to be Billy, would you? From Fawcett? She asked, and the Red Hood straightened up from his relaxed slouch. What's it to you? He asked, voice edging on a hostile growl. Yeah, it's me. Hi, Miss Auntie. You seem like you're doing a lot better. The now named Billy cut in, smiling happily. It made sense the kid was from Fawcett. That kind of cheer was not native to Gotham. Yeah, I am, kid. You seem like you're doing better, too. I got a dad. You're clean? The kid asked casually. 3.5 years. You got me my start, kiddo. I can't thank you enough. Nuh-uh, Billy denied. You're the one who stuck with it. You just needed someone to believe you could do it. Billy, I was new on the streets. You guided me through it. Told me the good shelters to stay at, which ones to avoid. Which jobs would give someone like me a chance, kid. I know if it weren't for you, I would have OD'd long ago. Camilla's eyes were shining as she crouched down in front of the kid, whose eyes looked similarly wet. Captain Marvel wasn't around back then. The only hair I had was you, kid, so thank you for saving my life. Billy sniffed, and Sean did his best to pretend that it was absolutely his dust allergies acting up. Thank you for letting me. Can I give you a hug? Camilla nodded and spread her arms, and Billy settled into them, wrapping his arms around her. Sean looked at his boss. He seemed to be taking a picture and nodded at him. Hood nodded back, and Sean walked out the door. He had a family to get back to, and hug, and maybe cry a little. Man, Carl was going to tease him so much. Nothing interesting ever happens in meetings, his ass. Danny looked down at his phone and the text Jason sent him. There was a picture of Billy hugging an Indian woman with tears slipping down her face. The text read, Your kid rescues people in and out of costume. Get a hold of him before Bruce tries for co-adoption. Danny snorted and texted back. That's my hero, and I'd like to see him try. Danny smiled and tucked his phone into one of the pockets of his hazmat suit. A bell rang through the halls, low and haunting. Phantom let the smile fall from his face and squared his shoulders. He had the trial of one Leshy, of the Akatos, Manchur, and Taiga to get to. This would not be pleasant. Phantom straightened the crown of fire floating over his head, and headed back into the flames of the politics of the infinite realm. Alright guys, that was the end of chapter 9 of Who's Old Now by Lyra Biswavi. Hope you guys liked it, and we'll see you next chapter.